Josh here, Future Contributions Business Development. So we're talking tonight about goals, setting goals, but now how to execute goals. You know, in 2025, I made a commitment to myself that I'm going to go on the biggest and best diet that is out there. And it's not the diet that you think about. Because the most important thing is not the physical body, it's the mind. Because what first happens in here, then happens out here. So we are so conscious, especially in America, we have a diet for this, a nutrition plan for that, and all this other stuff, but we never stop to think. You can have a very unhealthy mind, very unhealthy soul, but try to be super healthy in the body. But even physically, your soul will affect you physically. So if you don't put the right things in here, the thoughts, what you hang out with, your environments, it will physically affect you in the natural. To where you can diet as much as you want, you can have the best plans, but if you're bringing stuff into your life and attracting darkness and depression, you're not going to have a very good physical body. It's going to increase blood pressure. That's just the physical aspects of it. So talking about the technical aspects of it, okay? So putting in your mind, every time you put food in your mouth, it's affecting calories and the way it breaks down. Well, what about the mind? What are we putting in here? Because ultimately, there's number one, when we put it in, it's going to increase and put something out. Because your heart can go places your head can't fit. Being that the case, we need to build up our mind before we build up our body. I was at a business conference this week in Las Vegas, and Eric Trump was there, and he said something that really stuck out to me. With all his hotels and the way they have such high performance and keep everything so clean, his goal is not to inspect the entire hotel. It would take way too long. What he does is he goes into the utility closets, and he checks the light bulbs, he checks the vents, he checks the floors, he checks the baseboards. If that is clean, he doesn't check the rest of the hotel. Because he knows if he can keep where you can't see clean, the things you can see will be. So we need to focus what things in our life, what closets in our life do we have mentally, physically, professionally, financially, do we need to go into, open up the door, and check it out. This all goes back to childhood, and using a childhood illustration. You know, you ever been in that childhood, like you're sleeping and the closet door is kind of open, but you're afraid to get up and close it because the monster might be in there? I've been there, you know, but we really never grow up. We have monsters in our closet to this day, within our minds, within our business, within our finances. What are you laughing at, Greg?
I saw him shaking.
So we might look really good on the outside, but you're a professional at home first before you're a professional in the field ever. So we need to check our home life. We need to check our personal lives. We need to check on the people that we love, right? And if you want to be changed, if you want to see change, be the change that you want to see. So what is that closet for you? You don't have to write it down, but mentally make note. Okay, this is a door I'm afraid to open in my life because I'm afraid what's in it. I'm afraid what's going to come out. I'm afraid of the pain. I'm afraid of the fear. But everything you want is on the other side of comfort. And I gauge fear two ways. There is a bad fear and there's a good fear. So a bad fear is something that you're terrified and afraid of and have no peace about. You need to run from that fear. But there's some fear where there's peace, but it's scary because it's above and beyond what you've done before. You need to face that fear and run into it. Let peace be the umpire of your life. In personal decisions, financial decisions, and business decisions. If there's peace there, go into it. If there's fear with no peace, step away from it. So what I'm going to talk tonight about executing goals. Go ahead, you have a question?
Fear with no peace, go into it.
No, fear with no
peace.
Fear with peace, go into it. Just say it wrong, I'm sorry. Fear with peace, you want to go into it. Fear with no peace, you want to run away from it. Good fear and bad fear.
And how do you distinguish those, Josh?
Peace. The feeling that you feel above physical. When you're in a situation, so for an illustration, when you're in a situation...
You got to have fear in there too, right?
Yeah, because if you don't have fear, it means that you're in your comfort zone. You're not fearing something if you've done it before. You're not fearing something if you're comfortable with that thing.
Right.
So I'm associating fear with non-comfort, right? Or you could have, because everything you want is on the other side of fear. Everything you want is on the other side of failure. So if we don't push ourselves past where we've been then we'll never grow. We'll stay comfortable. But if we do push ourselves past what we think we're capable of, it's scary. It's not a bad thing. Example for me personally is, starting UBA. I was a very bad financial situation 4 years ago. And I was owed $80,000. It was never paid to me. And I just bought another house. I had 2 houses. I had an Airbnb, some real estate investment, and I had $7,000 to my name, and I was counting on that check. Well, it was the scariest thing in the world to step out of my $250,000 a year sales job, because I believe in Jesus Christ, just like what Charlie was saying too. And I really felt the Lord tell me, he said, just drop your nets and follow me. And that's exactly what I did. And I went into fear, but having perfect peace. Into something that didn't make physical sense, but it was coming from a direction that was above me. So whether that direction is coming from some wisdom in your life, whatever it is, I stepped in to that fear, but in peace. It didn't make any sense, but it was the best decision I ever made. So with using that example, what I'm going to get to tonight in executing goals is you got more in you than you think you do. You have more in you than you think you do. When you reach the end of yourself, it's the beginning of your potential. Your potential is above and beyond anything you can think, imagine, or dream. It always has been. We can always do more. And when you reach that next level, you can do more than that level. In order for the mind in order for a mind to be expanded, you cannot think what you cannot think of. So let that sink in. Simply because you can do nothing until you think it is possible. So you can't think of doing something you never thought of before. So how do you create extra thought? How do you create something and go beyond your expectations? See, you are what you think, and you only can think bigger when getting around those who think impossible as possible, or complete the highest form of what we think is possible for us. When you push yourself to the limit on the other side of comfort, through fear with peace, in business, in life, in finances, you will find yourself grow. Growing isn't comfortable. Anybody here as a kid remember the growing pains? It wasn't always comfortable. There's pain in growth, and it's supposed to be that way, and that's okay. But as we grow, if I was a really short guy, right, and let's just use this illustration. And what do you, Rob, stop looking at Vanya. What do you think?
I was like, why is he picking on me? Why is he looking at me?
So let's just say I have a goal, and I want to achieve that goal, and it's scary for me. And I am this short, and this is my obstacle. I'm right here. It's okay. I'll be back. So this is my obstacle. Well, as I put it in my mind and I grow and get around my right environment, I grow past what I can see. Now that thing that was limited my sight, because I pushed past it, and I don't know what's around it, but by faith and push through it, and I grow past it, so now I can see. The same thing in your mind. That's how you create thinking. Is you push yourself to the limit farther than what you can think. The furthest thing you can think of your potential, you're going to push yourself to get there and grow. When you get there, you'll now be able to see a new level of what you can think. Davy Crockett, he was an explorer, and a lot of, this great warrior back in the day, good friend of Greg's. At one point, yeah, that's right. At one point, as he was coming down through a mountain trail to Texas, he came up to a mountain, and he thought he was at the last ridge, and he came and stumbled across the Appalachian Mountains. So every time you think you reach a peak, there's more peaks. And he was able to get a view that he couldn't see before, and it gave insight to what was ahead. See, then and only then can we see further, to think bigger. We are all limited to what we can think. We can never be more than what we can see or believe. See, everything you want, like I said earlier, is on the other side of comfort. For the most successful people, were not the smartest. They were not the richest. They didn't have the money to start. And this is what Ivan said, and I'm going to butcher his last name, so I'm not going to say it. The gentleman who makes $40 billion a year, and he was asked the question, How did you do it? And my pen was ready. I was already taking notes while I'm taking it on the tablet, so my thumbs were ready. And they were stretched, ready to go. And he took a pause and he said, I was just willing to stay uncomfortable longer than my competition. Mic drop, boom. We got to end of the conference and I got everything that I needed. And that was the first speaker within 5 minutes. And it changed the way that I thought. It's not about the fancy things that you do. It's not about the programs we listen to and all this other stuff. And all that's great. It's not about just having a goal. It's executing the goal and staying in the ring, punch after punch, getting hit down, getting back up again, getting hit down, getting back up again in life, and be willing to stay in the ring until you win the fight. When you fall, it's not the end. It's just the beginning because you found the end of yourself. And you can never grow, just coming from Las Vegas from the business conference, you're not going to grow a building on top of the ground. You're going to go down to bedrock. Every one of us, before we become truly successful, will reach the end of ourselves. Because it's when we reach to the end of ourselves, we find out that we really are nothing in the sight of the success that is before us. We're nothing in the sight of the success before us. What I mean is, our success is going to take something, living for something greater than ourselves. It's going to have to be something outside of ourselves that's going to be worth fighting through and staying in that ring. If you ask any famous boxer, Mike Tyson, I got to meet him last year too, they'll all tell you this one thing. It was never about the money. It starts that way, but anybody who stays in the ring and is willing to stay uncomfortable, it's not about the money. It's a bigger reason. It goes back to our why, right? Why are we in life? Why are we here? What are we pursuing? What are we doing? So what is that thing in your life that continually punches you in the face and knocks you down? How can we recover from those punches and get back up again? Sometimes it's not the fancy moves. Sometimes it's not how fast we hit. Sometimes it's just about our mindset and be willing to stay uncomfortable longer than the fear that's coming against you. See, true passion will lead us places our physical eyes cannot see and imagine more than we can think. So we must live in passion for what we wish to obtain. Seeing it is not enough. Just because you see something, just because you see your goal, just because you know what your goal is, that's not enough either. Passion is what's going to keep us in the ring. Passion is what's going to keep us fighting. We must be, I want you guys to hear this. This is very powerful. We must be normal people doing non-ordinary things because of unrealistic expectations. Never let somebody think that you're thinking too big. Don't let anybody think that you're doing too much. You need to have always an unrealistic expectation. Your personal relationships, be unrealistic. What does a marriage look like? Be unrealistic. Don't look at Hollywood, please. Don't look at Las Vegas. Don't look around you. If you're comparing yourselves with others, you're setting the bar too low. Okay? We set the bar so low when we look at the highest example of what is out there. Because our potential is more than that. Each and every one of us. We cannot look without, we have to look within. And when we look within, we can change what's here so that someday we could be those giants that other people can sit on our shoulders and get a different view. Because you don't have to have tremendous success to see what they can see. You can climb on their shoulders and sit on the shoulders of giants and get the same view as they do. And that's a beautiful thing. We don't have to wait to grow and go through all the same pains that everybody else went through to get business success, financial success, or personal success. We can simply go to that mentor, that person, that training program, apply, execute, build a relationship, and climb up on their shoulders and see past what's in front of us. And they can set us back down, and we have the view, the vision, and now we can see it, we can believe it before we arrive there. Because I can tell you right now, if you don't see and if you don't believe that you will get your success, you will never have it. You have to see your success clearer than reality before it's going to come into your present state. And that's why I said last week, we have to write it down. It has to be somewhere that we can see it. It has to be something that is written, not just thought. but something that drives us every single day. And at the end of the day, too, guys, is we must be great. You know why? Because nothing else pays. You have to be great. You have to be great or nothing else pays. Nobody's going to pay you for the value that you obtain. You understand that, right? If I said this cup of water was $2 and you valued it at $1, you're not going to buy this cup of water. So whatever you're trying to sell in your business, and I'm not getting into a sales class here, I'm just using this as an example, as your goal. So I'm relating this to a value of a substance. You have to see this at least valuable as $3 to give you $2. You're not going to give it its exact value. You have to think more of a thing in order to have that thing come into your life, right? Same thing with your goals. It's going to take more than you think. It's going to take more energy, more execution, more punches. It's going to be harder than you think. But you know what? That's okay. So we need to prepare ourselves for that thing. Because I talk about, it's kind of like the snipers in the military. The snipers out there are most times not alone. They have spotters because they are scoping in to a distance far away. And all they can see is a zeroed in area. Well, the spotters beside them are looking at the broad view. Who are your spotters in your life? Who's spotting for you? Because sometimes we get so locked into what we think is in front of us and what's important, and we're aiming at the target, but we might have the wrong target. But let's say we have the right target, and we have the spotter, and we pull the trigger. Unlike a bullet that's self-propelled and keeps the energy till it hits its target, we have to keep the momentum going. So what's going to keep us on course? What's going to drive us? It's that everyday vision, sitting on the shoulders of those giants, getting the same view that they do, having a passion, willing to stay uncomfortable longer than everybody else, and stay the course. But inevitably, in the course of life, you're going to hit boulders. There's going to be things, it's not going to be a straight shot, unfortunately. It's just not. That was my experience. If you have an experience and you made a straight shot to success, please, I want to sit down with you and you tell us all how you did it. So, that being said, we're going to hit boulders in life. And when we hit those boulders, if we're not expecting it, it could crush us. It could take us off target. So what boulders are you guys facing in life right now? In business, in finances, in your personal life. Those boulders are there for you. They're not necessarily against you. They're going to make you stronger. So whenever you see a challenge, now, there's a thing where boulders are bad, and that is when we create our own boulders, when we create our own problems and our own challenges, because life is hard enough, right? But the boulders I'm talking about are the boulders you didn't create, but you actually, in a sense, put them there yourself. Because when you pursue success, you're creating problems. If you don't want to have problems, don't be successful. You're going to have way more problems being successful than you would just staying in your comfort zone. Now, life's going to be hard regardless. You're going to have problems regardless. But I'd rather have problems that are, when I get around them, make me better rather than take me back. So when we shoot, when we pull the trigger, when we have the spotter, we hit the target, nobody else can make your success for you. That spotter gave you all the information he could give you. You aimed as best as you could. But are you going to stay the course? Are you going to hit the boulder? Are you going to go through? Are you going to go around? Are you going to start chiseling at that thing every day? Whatever it takes. That's what's going to make us successful. There was a man, just one moment, who drank a glass of water and felt a lot better. How are we doing on time? 10 minutes? Okay, cool. So there was a man years ago, and he was 18 years old, and he had a farm. And he had an ambition at a young age to create this farm, and he did pretty well at it. He worked night and day at a young age, and he created a pretty successful farm. But what happened was, the unexpected things in life, a boulder came into his life and stopped him, and he was unable to fulfill the demand, the quota for the payment on the farm. So he had to switch products. He had to switch what he was selling, in this case, farming, right? He had to make a switch on the fly. It's like having a storefront business and taking everything out. What's that?
So he started growing weed?
No, he didn't start growing weed. No, that didn't, I don't think it existed, But anyway, that's like changing your storefront for a farmer, right? It's like taking your entire business down, losing everything, and having to go start another store and start all over again with a different product, different branding, everything. What he was willing, and he took the task. So he was able to save his farm, and he worked through it. He worked through everything, through failure and opposition. And then he was called into battle. So at 30 years old, this man was called into battle. He just got his business started. He was already failing, then started succeeding, and just when he thought he had it all, he was called into battle, and he became one of the greatest generals that we all know. And as he fortitude himself through that battle, almost losing his life several different times, he came back home, established himself as one of the first presidents of George Washington. So one of the greatest men arguably in history came from one of the hardest times. Not only did he fail once, not only did he fail twice, he failed multiple times, but he never gave up. I guarantee you the strength that it took through to get at 18 years old through starting a farm to 25 to almost losing it all back in 1750 to 1760s, that strength is what gave him the next strength to be one of the greatest generals. And what made him a great general, all the lessons he learned made him a great president. And not just a great president, but a great leader. You can always notice the greatest leaders in the room because the arrows in their back. They're the pioneers. They're the ones who went first. They're the ones that had to face everything. You're going to get arrows in your back too, and that's okay. Wear it like a badge. We're going to go through things in life, and it's going to be tough. It's going to be hard. But we need to get outside of ourselves. We need to get outside of comfort, and we need to execute like we never did before, because you can do more than what you're doing. You can do better. We can all do better. We can all do great things. And that thing that you want to have that you think, just take 1 second. Just take 5 seconds and close your eyes. And that thing that you imagine that's just on the other side of imaginable, but you can still think it, that is possible for you a lot sooner than you think. And the great thing about success and the bad time too is it doesn't have a time limit. Success is going to take as long as it takes. It's when we start rushing success that failure starts to win. So especially in business, we all have businesses here. We put a time limit on what we think it takes to turn the needle up, to get to here, to get to there. But when expectations are not set, doubt and fear set in. Fear is always clutching and waiting at the doorstep. It's always waiting there for us in business. It's in the closet, so we check the closet and we clean it out. Then it goes over here and it goes over there. Even if all the closets are clean, it's always trying to get back in. It's always trying to get back in. Just because let's say you have a perfect example of a perfect life, we still have to stay the course of protecting our internal self, protecting our businesses, protecting what we do. And the fact that we're always growing and we're always pushing past comfort, we're going into places that we don't know. So what's going to steer us the right way, what's going to keep us on course is our why, which is going to establish our what, which is going to establish our how. And as we discussed, too many people are asking how, what, before they're asking why. And if you find your why, you're going to find your what, which is going to produce the how. How do I do it? How do I get to the next level of thinking? How can I think bigger? How can I get there? Because it seems hard now, but once you get past your first $100,000, once you get past your first 300, 500, million, it'll start getting easier, easier, and easier. Because we're all created for wealth. We are all created to have more money, to leave a legacy, and to leave an inheritance for our children's children. Every single one of us. And in this day and age, it's going to take a lot of money. So in order to make a lot of money, you're going to have to be in business. And every one of us are in business. Whether you are help supporting a business, whether you work in a business, whether you're creating a business, we're all in business. We all have personal things that we are doing and striving for. So the goals that you set here in 2025, just because you have somebody guiding you, just because you wrote it down, just because you pulled the trigger at New Year's at midnight, I wasn't quite that good. I didn't have it done yet. But if you were better than me and had it done, you still have to stay the course. So let's stay the course in 2025. Let's make more money than we ever did. Let's have better relationships than we ever had. And let's grow more than we ever did, because we can. And if you can do it, you should do it. And just make the change. Take the step.